Hey everyone, and welcome. We're going to be looking at something kind of interesting today. A connection between AI like ChatGPT and the wildfires that have been happening in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's always interesting how quickly people blame technology,
Right.
especially when something bad happens like these fires. But sometimes when people jump to conclusions like that, it can actually show us some other problems that we might not have noticed otherwise.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're seeing a lot of talk on social media about ChatGPT causing the fires, which sounds a little crazy at first.
Yeah.
But there is a connection to how much water gets used.
Yeah. So ChatGPT and AI models, it need these huge data centers to run. They're basically just warehouses full of really powerful servers.
Okay.
And those servers make a ton of heat. You know how your laptop gets hot if you're streaming something?
Yeah.
It's like that, but way bigger. And to keep them from overheating, they have these big cooling systems, and a lot of them use a ton of water.
So like a giant air conditioner for computers.
Exactly. And to give you an idea of how much water we're talking about, think of it this way. Sending a short email, like 100 words, or getting a few responses from ChatGPT uses about a bottle of water.
Wow.
Now think about how many people are using ChatGPT. They had something like 300 million users every week in 2024.
Yeah, that's a lot of water bottles. No wonder people are connecting this to the water problems in Southern California.
Exactly. That's an area that's already dealing with drought. And then you have these terrible wildfires on top of that. 25 people died, 6 million were in danger, and firefighters are trying to fight these huge fires with strong winds, making things even harder.
And they were running low on water in some areas.
Yeah.
There's been criticism of the LA Fire Department because some fire hydrants ran out of water. It's easy to see why people might put those things together.
Yeah.
Not enough water. AI using tons of water. It makes you think maybe the AI is to blame.
Right. It seems like an obvious connection, but we have to be careful about jumping to conclusions. ChatGPT does use a lot of water, but blaming it for the fires is kind of like blaming traffic jams on cars. The car isn't the problem, it's that we don't have enough roads or good traffic management.
Okay.
In this case, the real problem is that there's this huge need for water to fight the fires, and at the same time, the city's water system just wasn't built to handle that much demand all at once.
So are we saying ChatGPT is off the hook?
Not necessarily. What this situation shows us is that it's not just about the technology itself, it's also about how we manage the things that the technology needs to work.
Right.
The wildfires in LA and the problems the fire department had with water really show us how important that is. Imagine a city with amazing modern buildings, but the roads are falling apart and the electricity keeps going out. The problem isn't the buildings, it's the systems that are supposed to support them.
I see.
It's the same with AI. It has incredible potential, but if the things that AI needs to work properly can't keep up, we're going to have problems.
So what do you think? Are we going to see more situations like this as AI gets more advanced? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this conversation so far, don't forget to hit that like button.
Okay, so maybe ChatGPT didn't directly start the fires, but this whole thing does make you think about how AI affects the environment, right?
Absolutely. What happened in LA is just one example of a much bigger problem. We're using more and more AI in data centers, and that puts a lot of stress on resources, especially water. And in a lot of places around the world, there's already not enough water.
It's kind of ironic. We're using gallons of water to power technology that's supposed to make us more efficient, when we could often do those same things ourselves without using nearly as much water.
Yeah, it is kind of a paradox. And to get a little more technical, the reason it uses so much water often comes down to the cooling systems. A lot of data centers rely on water cooling, which is very effective, but it can use an incredible amount of water.
So are there other options? Can we have AI and still have enough water? That's the big question. There are a few things people are trying. Some data centers are experimenting with different cooling technologies that use less water, or trying different ways to cool the servers altogether, like using air. Others are putting new data centers in places with colder climates, so they don't need as much cooling in the first place.
Those sound promising, but they also sound really complicated and expensive.
They are. And that's where this idea of necessary AI comes in.
Necessary AI. What's that?
It means being more careful about how we use AI. Do we really need AI for everything? Are there some things that humans are better at doing, at least for now, while we figure out how to make AI more sustainable?
So it's like asking ourselves, are the benefits of using AI for this worth the potential cost to the environment?
Exactly. We need to start asking that question more often. What happened in LA is a reminder that we can't ignore how our technology affects the environment.
It feels like we're kind of at a crossroads. We can keep doing what we're doing and maybe things will get even worse, or We can use this as a sign that we need to change how we think about AI and how it fits into the world.
Yeah, I think you're right. We have a choice to make. Do we want a future where AI helps us but also respects the planet, or one where it just makes things worse? Something we all need to think about.
I think the answer is pretty obvious. We need to choose the path that leads to a sustainable future. But how do we get there? What can we actually do to make a difference?
Well, like we were talking about, we can all do things in our own lives to save water and be more aware of how we use resources.
Like fixing leaks or using appliances that save water.
Exactly. But those individual actions aren't going to be enough. We need to push for change on a bigger level. We need to support policies that encourage responsible AI development and research into sustainable AI technologies. And we need to hold companies responsible for how their actions affect the environment.
So we need both individual action and changes to the system. We need to work on both of those things to make a real difference.
Exactly. And that's where things start to get really interesting. We're starting to see some really cool innovations in AI cooling technologies. For example, some companies are developing systems that use air to cool the servers instead of water, which could use way less water. Others are trying to find more efficient ways to capture and reuse the heat that the data centers produce, maybe even turn it into a source of energy.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
It seems like there's so much potential for new ideas in this area. But are these solutions actually possible on a big scale?
That's the challenge. A lot of these technologies are still pretty new, and it's going to take a lot of money and teamwork between governments, researchers, and tech companies to make them work for the whole AI industry.
A really complicated issue with no easy answers. But it feels like at least we're starting to ask the right questions, which is a good start. This whole conversation has really made me think it's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology that we forget to think about how it's affecting the world around us.
I agree. It's all about balance. We can be excited about the possibilities of AI while also taking care of the planet. And that's a responsibility that falls on all of us, not just governments and big companies, but each of us as individuals.
That's right. We all have a role to play in figuring out what the future of AI looks like and making sure that it's a future where both humanity and the environment can thrive. And that brings us back to the idea of necessary AI. Before we start creating and using new AI applications, we need to ask ourselves some tough questions. What problem are we trying to solve? Are there ways to do it that use less resources? Do the benefits really outweigh the costs?
Those are really important questions to ask. And to be honest, sometimes the answer might be that we don't need AI for that particular thing, or that we can do it just as well with technologies we already have that are better for the environment.
It's about making smart choices, thinking about the long-term consequences of what we do, and prioritizing both sustainability and innovation.
Exactly. It's realizing that we don't have to choose between progress and taking care of the environment. We can and we should aim for both.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I hope it's given our listeners something to think about too. What do you think? Are you ready to join the movement for a more sustainable future with AI? What are you doing to reduce your own impact on the environment? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep talking about this. And if you found this discussion as interesting as we did, don't forget to give it a like. It really helps other people find this important information. Now let's change gears for a minute and talk about a specific example of how AI is being used to tackle environmental problems. This might surprise you, but AI is actually playing a big role in preventing and managing wildfires.
That's right. AI algorithms are being used to look at massive amounts of data, like weather patterns, how dense the vegetation is, and information about past fires to figure out which areas are most likely to have wildfires. This helps fire departments use their resources better and take steps to prevent big fires, like doing controlled burns or clearing out vegetation.
So it's kind of like fighting fire with fire.
Exactly. It's a really powerful tool that can help us understand and reduce the risk of wildfires, but we have to remember that it's only one part of the solution.
Right. We still have to address the things that cause wildfires in the first place, like climate change, deforestation, and human activity.
Yeah.
And we need to be aware of how AI itself can affect the environment.
Absolutely. It's a complicated problem that requires us to look at the big picture, considering both the good things and the bad things that AI can bring.
And that brings us back to the idea of responsible AI development. We need to make sure that the way we're using AI lines up with our values and helps create a more sustainable future.
I couldn't agree more. We need to move past just asking, can we do this? And start asking, should we do this? And how can we do this the right way?
It's about moving beyond all the hype and potential of AI and really thinking about the ethical and environmental implications.
Exactly. It's about making sure that AI serves humanity and the planet, not the other way around.
This conversation has really given me a lot to think about. It's a complicated issue, but one that we definitely need to keep talking about.
I agree. The more we discuss these challenges, the better we'll be at finding solutions.
You know, it's funny, thinking back to when ChatGPT and all this AI stuff first came out, everyone was so excited about what it could do.
Yeah, and they had every right to be. AI has the potential to completely change so many things. Healthcare, education, how we get around.
But it's like somewhere along the way, we forgot to ask some important questions.
Yeah.
Like, how much stuff do these technologies actually need? How do they affect the environment? And are we using these powerful tools ethically?
It's like we were so focused on the what that we forgot about the how. We were so excited about what AI could do that we didn't really think about what it would take to make it happen and what would happen once everyone started using it.
Yeah, it's like building a rocket without making sure you have enough fuel or thinking about where it's going to land.
Exactly. We need to be a lot more careful and thoughtful about how we develop AI. It's not about giving up on it altogether. It's about finding a way to use it that helps us and doesn't hurt the planet.
So it's not AI versus humans. It's about finding a way for AI and humans to work together.
Right. We need to remember that AI is a tool, a really powerful tool, but still just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good things or bad things. It's up to us to make sure we're using it the right way.
This conversation has really changed how I see things. I'm going to be a lot more aware of how much water I use and how the technology I use affects the environment. And I'm going to start asking a lot more questions about how AI is being developed and used.
I think that's a great takeaway. Remember, the more you know, the better decisions you can make. The more we understand these issues, the better we'll be at making good choices and pushing for change.
Absolutely. And we can't forget that this isn't just about us. It's about the people who come after us and making sure we leave them a world that's both advanced and sustainable.
It's about balance. Balance between progress and protecting the planet, between new ideas and responsibility. It's a challenge, but it's one we can overcome if we work together.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. I hope our listeners feel the same way. And hey, if you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It really does help us out. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world.